All right, Benoit, here we go. We're going to play the video first. All right, so a couple things to point out. First things first, I think the main takeaway from you in the class is your transitions look, for lack of a better word, just sort of lazy. Like you're not in a hurry to get from target to target. So we'll play this through a little bit in slow-mo and go over what I mean by that. But first things first, on the draw here, your time to first shot 274. It's not horrendous on a long steel like that, but you have to take into account, I think, if trying to get moving and then drawing and shooting is taking way too much time, it might be better to just draw and shoot it and then get moving. It's hard to say on this one with 274. On the next video, actually, it takes you quite a bit longer. So in that case, it might be better to just draw, shoot it. Hopefully that would be well under 2 seconds, and then get going. The other thing after this is your transition from the steel to the first target is over 1.25 seconds, and this first target here is a wide open target. Ideally, this would be, I'd say, at least in the 0.7 range, if not well under that, because you're transitioning from a steel that's sort of in the same direction to this wide open target. So that is really cutting up a lot of time, adding up a lot of time from the steel to here. Not bad here. And then again, here's where I say the transitions are a little bit lagging. I do like that you can already see here, you've turned your head, you're starting to turn your head to get to this target. So you're looking for it, but the gun is lagging quite a bit behind. See here, when you turn your head, it's just sort of a long path to get from here to here, it seems. The other thing here, the footwork here I don't really love. There's sort of a, you come in facing forward, turn around to face backwards, to engage this first target on the right. And I think the footwork is a result of the target engagement order you picked. So you're backing in here, you're kind of on one foot, and now you went from this target, a full wide, basically 180-degree transition, right? So if you look at your muzzle angle here, you're pointing well over to the left. Now you have to reload and transition all the way over to the right, and it causes you to back out and have this sort of awkward stance. And then come over here and transition again all the way over to the left to engage the steel. And now you just shoot them left to right. So really that's more of a target engagement order thing, and I believe you fix it on your second run, where you shoot the steel and you just go left to right across partial, partial, the no-shoot partial, and then the one behind the barrel is last, which I think from this position is definitely the best plan. So it just looks a little bit like the transitions are just slightly lagging behind. I know all these are difficult shots in the back, but if you just look at what your splits and transitions are, your splits are good. There's like a 50, nothing wrong with that. But then basically a second to get to the next target, a 60 split, and then a second and a half to get to this target and engage it. Now, there are worse things than being careful on these partial targets, especially the one with the no shoot. So it's not, the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely something I think we can cut down the time of. So let's go to the second video, and we'll play it straight through. All right. So here's where I was referring to, is it worth it to draw and move here and get into position and then shoot? Because your first shot is a 320. So on a standing draw situation on this target, I would think, at the most that would take you. You'd have to probably answer that question for me. 1.75. Ideally that would be, you know, for me, maybe it would be 1.5. Hopefully, maybe less, but I'm not sure in a match. If that's a 20-yard target, it might be a second and a half, but 3.2 is quite a long time. So again, it might be better, to just draw and shoot that, and then get moving aggressively before you start shooting these ones. It's kind of a toss up, and that makes it interesting as far as the stage goes. It's one of those things where you really have to put it on a timer on your own and see really, what the ideal case would be for you. Now, if this steel was much closer, or if it was a paper target much closer, I think your plan was fine. But just looking at the timer from here, that first shot 320, that is forever. So just something to think about. And then again, from the steel to the first paper, you have a 1 second, just over 1 second transition. That's long. Part of that is sort of waiting to hear the ding, I think, and then reacting. So if we watch the muzzle of your gun, right, there's a bit of a, you definitely hit it, and then there's a delay, then you go. That's not bad. You transition right over here. There's a little bit of, you sort of compress your arms here. I would like the gun to go immediately from here, snap over to the left. See, right here, you bring the gun in a little bit, and then you have to press it out again into the firing position. So now you're shooting. And now let's talk about this. This is a 180. It was probably not even that close. Thought about stopping you at the moment, but it's a class and you didn't kill anyone, so we let it continue. But in a match, you're going to get called stop for that. 99% of the time, right here. The main takeaway is your hips and your shoulders are facing almost directly, pretty much directly on the 180 line. So if you do a reload with your typical sort of, you bring the gun in, you point it slightly to the left as you insert the mag, you're going to break the 180 100% of the time. That's a function of where your toes are pointing and where your torso is pointing. So in this case, I'd want to, if you want to move aggressively with your feet going towards the final position, keep your feet that way, but you have to turn your torso to face the berm. So think about if you turned your chest to face the berm more and did the reload in the same position, you'd your 180 angle, your muzzle angle would be a lot better, much better. So just look again. Sorry, get the right spot here. So your feet are going the right spot. Here you sort of leave the gun behind, which if you squared your shoulders up to the back berm, this is a good position for the gun to be. But as soon as you do this right here, that's the point of no return. So we don't want that. But we get into the final position here. This plan is a lot better as far as it just makes sense. You just go left to right. You're shooting the difficult targets, at the speed that you can hit them. And you finish up here. And the good news is, you finished in the right spot, whether that was planned or it just worked out that way. You wanted to find a spot where you could shoot everything without moving your feet. So you did have to do a little bit of a lean. Nothing major, but during the walkthrough, if you can find a spot, it probably is exactly the spot, maybe just a foot back from where you are. So if your toes were here. So during the walkthrough, if you can find that spot where you can see everything without moving your feet, without leaning your upper body, that would save you a good amount of time. So if we look at the transition from the two headshots, so 1648, so it took you 1.2 swing from this difficult shot all the way over to this open shot. So anytime you're transitioning to an open target, these should be, at around a 70, and lower is definitely possible. In the class, during the shooting on the move drill, the guys that were killing it were doing that in around a 60. So if you remember, the 3 targets in a row with the barrel in the middle for a visual barrier, and then the steel, their transition from the 3rd target to the steel was around a 60. So if you think about that, this is similar. You're going from a target. Actually, this is easier. You're going from a tough target to a super easy target. So the swing should be very quick. In the drill that we did with shooting on the move, you're going from an easy open paper to a steel, which is a little bit more difficult. So in that case, a 60 is really good. And looking at your time, you're at 1.2. So again, mostly for you to work on, I think, is transitions. The wider the transitions, I think, the more difficulty you seem to have, and just something to think about with those reloads. Getting those reloads done in a way that you're not going to be anywhere near the 180. And that's the other thing, I talk about it in my intro class that I teach, is you don't want to be anywhere near the 180 because the ROs are like umpires. If they make that call, you can't argue it, you lose. So if you're keeping your muzzle, say, within like a 150-degree arc and not going anywhere near that 180, there's no way that they can accidentally make a call that would get you. So, I mean, in this case, it was close, and I think, that's a 180 call. And, it's one of those things you might disagree with at the match, but you can't do anything about it. If the RO says he saw it, there's no recourse for that. You can't protest it, you can't arbitrate it. So it's just something to consider. I'd want you to work on keeping your upper body more square to the back berm while you're doing your reload, and working on, you can point your toes in the direction you're going, but you need to square your upper body up so that you can complete that reload without breaking the muzzle angle.